Video. Hmm. And I have a separate audio that I use as well. In three, two, one. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Sandy K Nutrition, Health and Lifestyle Queen. Today, I have a special guest. I have Dr. Amanda Hanson, otherwise known as the Midlife Muse. She is a doctor of psychology, a speaker, and an author known for her transformative work in redefining the paradigm of womanhood with a deep understanding of both body, mind, and soul. Dr. Amanda views female psychology and physiology as an interconnected, harmonious system, one where true wellness cannot exist unless both elements are nurtured. She believes that the physical and emotional disruptors of modern society can often throw this delicate system out of balance. Yet, instead of addressing the root causes, society frequently offers women superficial band aid solutions. Dr. Amanda challenges that norm, empowering women to reclaim their power, realign with their inner truth, and thrive in every stage in life. And today's a really important discussion because most of you who have been listening to my podcast for all these years know that I believe that true wellness has to incorporate a healthy body, mind, spirit, soul. And this is why this conversation is so important because we are going to be talking about redefining womanhood and the connection and the wholeness at midlife. Because I think at midlife, a lot of women go through changes. I know I went through changes, and I know Dr. Amanda went through changes. So this conversation is really going to be there as a tool. And Dr. Amanda has many of them available to us. So today we're going to share a few of them. And with that, welcome, Dr. Amanda. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm looking forward to sharing with your audience this conversation, which I think is really important.
I agree because, you see a lot of times you will see women, they will start to exercise. They will really, really watch what they're eating, but they're not taking care of all aspects of their wellness and they still may not feel whole.
Mhm.
So, I would love for you to give us a background on your story. I think it's very important to what you do now.
Yes, well, I'm a clinical psychologist and I have been working with women for well over 25 years now. I am also a mother of four young adult children. I've been married for almost 29 years now, and I have worked with women literally from every continent, every background, every race, every religion, every belief system imaginable. And the themes of what women go through on different journeys of their life are very similar. And what is offered as quote unquote solutions are also very similar and usually do not end up helping them create the life that they're dreaming of. So I would say that my story and my work is based on my own lived experience. I'd been working with women, and simultaneously, I started to feel in my own life a deep, profound ache. But I couldn't at that time identify what the ache was. Because when you looked at my life, I had every single thing on the patriarchal checklist checked off. I'd accomplished and done what everyone in the world had assured me would provide for the dream life. And there I was sitting in the midst of it, feeling profoundly out of place. Something was wrong. And I spent so many years gaslighting myself, thinking, stop. Like, what is wrong with you that you have all of this and you're still having some kind of ache for something unidentifiable? Just get up and move on with your life. Everybody has this ache. And I was finding that in my conversations with my friends, my mother, my mother-in-law, all of my clients, every woman had this unidentifiable ache. And when I really started to pursue what was that, I uncovered a gold mine in myself that transformed. I was filing for divorce and that transformed our marriage, transformed my parenting, took my business to a completely different place. And my work with women in the world is also very different than what I was offering before by the traditional clinical psychology practices, because I realized even everything I learned as how to be a psychologist, whether in grad school or in my years of training in the field, was still written and scripted by a patriarchal system, by a system written by men to serve men. There weren't women actually doing the work around what do women need in this world? And so that's where everything just changed for me. And I only teach what I embody. I only teach what I live.
I think that's important, right? Because you can kind of like, I feel your work through you. I can feel it. And I think that a lot of times that's very hard to portray, really, especially in this world of social media. But I mean, I just want to speak about one podcast episode. I listened to a few of yours, but one of them where you were unwell and you asked, okay, this hit me so hard to the point that I can actually get tears in my eyes, Amanda, because you said, it was basically something about that you needed the nurturing and you're always afraid to ask for it. And honestly, that hit me right here when I heard it because I have two jobs. I have Sandy K Nutrition. I started working with my husband's company. I have two adult children. One just moved back. I'm still cooking these meals because nutrition is so important for me. And then I'm like, damn it, I'm always afraid to ask for help. Like, where does all this come from? Because you talk about the patriarchy. And I think that maybe starting there makes a lot of sense to talk about what that means.
Yes, and the patriarchy isn't men, right? The patriarchy is a system that was developed 5,000 years ago where we started removing women from any form of leadership, any form of religion, philosophy, conversation, science, everything and anything, because of, I believe, the fear and the power of this mystical essence of a woman. And so to do that, you have to make her afraid of herself. You have to make her feel not worthy. You have to make her feel like she has to be in service to earn her place. And so I think that this belief that we as women feel we have to earn love, we have to perform to receive love, that our sheer essence or being isn't already enough. Now, by default, we are absolutely going to show up for our people. We're going to do things. But I think there is a system where it gets very out of balance. And we, not even oftentimes our family, we tell the story that it is our job as a good woman, a good mother, a good wife to do these things. And we burn ourselves out to the point of sheer exhaustion, autoimmune disease, and don't feel that any time for ourselves is worthy, that it is childish, it is a waste of time, it's unnecessary. And so, but what's so interesting is there's this very quiet but seething resentment that builds underneath the surface. And that's such a burden and so unfair for the people in our lives. And it's if we're waiting for other people to say, you know what, don't make dinner tonight. You know what, we've got this. We're going to really start doing our part around here. That won't happen because everyone is used to women being in that certain role. So it really takes us asking. And it's phenomenal what can happen. But here's the trick to ask for support, to ask for people to pick up, around the house and as far as the tasks go, or to ask for something very specific for yourself. Here's the trick. The asking is hard, but what's even harder, I have found for women and I found for myself, was the practice of receiving. Because the stories in my head were like, well, I mean, gosh, now look, I've inconvenienced everyone. That was ridiculous. I shouldn't have done that. It would have just been so much easier for me to do it. Now I feel like a burden. Now I feel like I'm so needy. The stories, the stories, the stories. And to sit with the ability to receive and change that narrative is its own work to do and very vulnerable, what it brings up.
That's exactly it. What you just totally nailed it right there. So, as somebody who I will say, okay, new rule. I need some help, you guys. I need you to maybe cook dinner. I need you to pick up after, take turns cleaning up after dinner. But then it's exactly what you said. Then I'm like, oh, maybe I'll help just a little bit. Oh, maybe I'll just do this part. It's, I don't know how to let that go. And I think I'm so not alone in that.
Yes, and I also think it's a disservice to our relationships to always be in there taking care of everything. There's something really beautiful, this artful like dance, if you will, when we ask for something and we don't say, even like the languaging around it, like saying something to the effect of, I'd really like if maybe you could pick up doing dinner one night. It's like we remove the maybe. I would really like to get some clarity on the weekly schedule. Who's going to do dinner on what nights? And we can even get a calendar and we can hang it in the other room so it's super clear. I've got these nights, you've got those nights. Just really take this wishful thinking or dropping of suggestion out of it. And as a queen, be very matter of fact, very diplomatic about it, right? And then allowing yourself to receive the meals, receive the cleanup. So it's less of, well, maybe as it's so much more of, let's reimagine how we can do this differently. And here's why, right? I think when I help my people understand the why behind it was also, and it's not about explaining myself as much as letting them know that, well, it's been going this way for this many years or decades. Here's why things are shifting and why I'm asking for your support. Right? Because women have typically fit in their career wherever they can like figure out how to pretzel it in to everything else. So we don't take on less. We do everything we've been doing. And then we also have our career in there somehow. And it's this idea that women are capable, we tell the story that we're capable of doing everything, but long term, we really the relationship suffers with ourselves and with our loved ones. So being able to come from this place of not just being a support character in everybody else's lives, and I see women do that, and I did that for a very long time. I was everybody's support character for their dreams, and if there was 1% of energy left, it went to my dreams. And I just decided, you know what? They're all old enough now. I'm going to take on the role of main character of my life and let them sometimes be the support character in my life. And we're going to ebb and flow. And there'll be places and times where I'll be the support character in their lives, but I'm also going to be the main character of my own life.
Yeah. And then I guess that resentment, that anger, because every single woman I know has had those moments and you hear it, bitchy menopausal women, right?
Mhm.
It's a term that you hear, but what are your thoughts? Do you think that often it's that underneath resentment for all of that you've already mentioned?
Yes, and I also think that our estrogen is lower during menopause, so that caretaking hormone is not at the same level that it used to be. And now we're frustrated, right? And I think that this is a perfect time and a perfect place to, rather than be resentful, rather than punish everyone in our thoughts and our minds or withholding intimacy or connection, this is a beautiful time to reimagine. Midlife is such a fertile ground for reimagining and beginning again. And going to the people that we love and saying, "Hey, I know that for so long it's been operating this way. And I, like the trees outside and the flowers and all the animals and everything in Mother Nature, is constantly in evolution. So am I. And as I'm evolving on this journey of being a woman, what worked for me 10, 20, 30 years ago I'm not available for now. It doesn't work for me in the same way. So that's why I want to reimagine a new way forward for the family, right? And that is our job to do that.
Yeah, I don't know if you've ever read Carolyn Miss or Mice or whatever. She talks about sacred contracts and renegotiating contracts. I always picture that in my head, like how sometimes, with your mom, with your sister, with whoever, where you've taken certain things as this is just how it is in our relationship. And there's, I guess, a way that you can forge forward with the relationship, but renegotiate that sacred contract.
Yes, and I've done that even with my mother, and we have the past 5 years have been so much more beautiful than they ever were before. And there was so much fear around, can I renegotiate this contract? Can I ask her for what I really need and how I really want to be in relation with her? And doing so brought us both higher and more connected to each other, and also helped her get connected in her own community and in her own ways for her own life.
Yeah, I think I've personally definitely made changes in my life. It's been such a slow progression though, honestly. Like I kind of go, "Oh God, like, this started long time ago." But it's okay. It's constantly evolving and changing, and it's giving me more light within myself, I feel.
Absolutely. I know that we hear over and over again this bumper stick phrase of you have to take care of yourself and love yourself before you can take care of or love anybody else. But we don't actually understand what that looks like on a day-to-day basis. And that's this work is how do we help a woman take a look at what that looks like, sounds like in her real lived life and relationships with her own body and with everyone she loves and her place of business. And that's the energy of the queen coming into this place of I want to I now give from a place of overflow. Where before I gave from a really dry cup, like we were scraping the bottom to see if there was anything left. And I was performing for everybody else to be happy and have their needs met. And now it's from a place of overflow and joy. And it just feels so much cleaner. The energy feels cleaner. The exchange feels more authentic.
How do you help women begin to be more connected with what their needs really are? Because honestly, in this space for this long, Dr. Amanda, I have seen, I'm sure you've seen it. You've seen wine o'clock and a lot of numbing with women who, instead of doing the work, because it gets harder at this time to wear that mask and do all the things. And so they will numb more than ever. How do you help women connect deeper to what really is meaningful within themselves?
Yes. Well, first I want to say that numbing is they're quelling the ache, right? That ache is there. And that's where they're trying to get that hit of dopamine. They want that moment of just feeling good. So it's either the endless shopping, the scrolling on social media, the Netflix binging, the alcohol, the food, the gossip, whatever it is. They're just wanting hits of dopamine because they haven't ever learned how to source from a deep well within themselves. So women who are not well are reaching for these hits just to get through the days or the evenings because they don't have any concept of how to even go, often not even the language of how to go to the well within them because well-intended mothers, grandmothers did not teach them either. So where were we supposed to learn this? We've learned performative feminine, performative womanhood. We have not learned grounded ancient feminine, internal leadership. We've not learned that. So my work is very deep and it takes them on a long journey. My mastermind clients in particular are on a very deep journey for 6 months with me. But before we can even get to what is it that you love, what lights you up, before any of that, we can't put a band-aid over an infected wound. We have to go down into the cancer and understand the cancer, and we have to take it out from the roots. So what does that mean? That means deconstructing the patriarchal narrative that you've been swimming in. So just like I always say, a fish doesn't even know it's in water. Most women come to me because there's an ache, but they don't even know what they're aching from. They don't even know what the source of it is. And when I help to start bring them from this more unconscious way of being in their lives and bring them into consciousness, and we begin by the deconstruction. So we spend one entire month, 5 days a week for an entire month deconstructing the stories, the narratives, the beliefs that they've been living by as it relates to body, as it relates to health, as it relates to sex, as it relates to sensuality, as it relates to emotional intimacy, their relationships with their lovers, their partners, their parents, their children, their work as a woman who moves in the world. We uncover everything because until you understand your operating baseline, your operating system, and you deconstruct yourself from that, anything else will be cheap lived. That's why so much self-development doesn't have long-term effects because we're plastering positive thinking, keep going, don't give up on yourself, follow your dreams. My dreams? What are you talking about? I haven't even checked in with myself in 10, 15, 20, 30 years. So I do very deep work because we go into the root and we rebuild the foundation so that when the first wind blows, the whole house doesn't come crashing down.
Is this similar to shadow work or is it different?
Well, the shadow work, there's a piece of shadow work that is in there.
Oh, okay.
We definitely look at the ways in which you keep repeating cycles in your life because you might be getting off on it. You might say verbally that you hate it and you wish it would change, but it's fulfilling a need, and that's why you keep repeating it. So we look at that aspect of shadow. That's a completely different element of the work. But I'm talking about the deconstruction of the life that you live in, right? And women are flabbergasted at the end of that month. They're flabbergasted of what I've helped them bring into consciousness at the base of how they'd been living. They were like, I would have never accessed that. I would have never known that that was part of how I was functioning and living and deciding from. So we have these really faulty belief systems that we're living our life based on, and we're scratching our head like, I wonder why my life doesn't feel more beautiful. I wonder why it doesn't feel fulfilling. But we never go to the beginning and deconstruct it all.
That's amazing. I think that it's hard work to do that. And maybe that's why some women do. I don't know, as you know, the what did you say? Quelling. You used a term there. I
Quelling
liked
the
it.
ache.
Sorry?
Quelling the ache.
Yes.
Mm.
Because I think that what you speak of is very hard work.
It is, but I will say this, we have a hell of a lot of fun. I'm very edgy. There is a lot of pleasure around every corner, and we go deep into the month of the sacred slut, the sacred whore. We spend an entire month looking at intimacy and pleasure and bringing it back online and to life. I think a big part of why women are so resentful is they're just not well fucked, right? They don't even know what they want. They don't even know how to ask for it. They're afraid of their own bodies. They're shut down. They're disassociated. So this work is imbued with endless pleasure. That is at the root of this work because I am not here to create a journey of healing as suffering.
Mm.
I'm here to create healing as beauty and art. And it is exquisite. And that's why most women who come into my world never want to leave because this is a very different kind of healing. And it's extremely sustainable because it's so damn fun.
Oh,
It's
I
it's
like that.
it's rooted in ancient feminine, and there's just a knowing in this work that feels resonant, like language they didn't even know they needed until they got here. And now they're like, oh my gosh, I never want to leave this place.
So what I like too is okay, a lot of times people will look at patriarchy as a group of feminists who hate men. You've been married for 29 years. You obviously see women who are in various stages in their life where they may feel possibly that they want to divorce or whatever. So you help women in all different stages, and in the end, it could even help their marriage, or you would hope that it would.
Oh, yes, very much so. You know, I do think that's just a lack of understanding of what patriarchy is, when people say that, because I have met and know women who are more patriarchalized than men that I know. So, patriarchy is a belief system that women are subservient and men are superior, and that the ultimate goal for a woman is to find a man, get herself hitched to him, and follow his way and his ideas for the rest of her life. And anything that she wants or thinks or believes is ridiculous, right? It's a system of oppression. It's a modern day form of slavery, if you will. Maybe not so modern day. It is a way of taking things from women, their voices, their bodies, their rights, their ability to earn equal. That's what the system is, right? And there are women who play that game and are so deeply entrenched in it that it's unbelievable. Even as it relates to women, how they feel about other women. And we do a lot of work around healing the sisterhood wound because the level of fear and competition between and jealousy between women is why I think we are so far behind because we're too busy worrying about how we look and too busy worrying about who is doing it better than we are. And we're wasting our natural resources rather than coming alongside of one another, understanding that all tides rise all ships, right? And we are actually harming one another because you can't speak ill of another woman if you and not have that also contaminate your soul and your spirit. So that's a whole nother piece of the work. But I am a huge proponent of men, and I'm married to a divine masculine man for 29, almost 29 years now. I've raised three young adult men who are some of the most phenomenal humans I've ever met in my life. I have a phenomenal brother and stepdad and father-in-law and just beautiful, beautiful, sacred men in my life. And I have clients who come to me on the brink of divorce and it's over and they're done. And after this work and this journey, they realize how much they've played a part in the demise of the relationship and why they are so unsatisfied and why they are where they are now. Now, it is not always a guarantee, of course. Sometimes this work really shines the light on the fact that the couple has taken each other as far as they can. And there really is now a time where they're going to part. But more often than not, the women who come and work with me end up arriving to a place in their relationship that prior to this they could have never even fathomed would have been possible. So I know the languaging. I understand the territory of men. I understand what because in my relationship with my partner and with all of my sons from the time they were little, I was deeply, profoundly curious about the inner workings of men. And I studied them and I asked them questions and I understood what they were most afraid of and where they felt that they had limitations. And so being able to communicate, to call the men in our lives to step more into their own divine masculine and their own powerful leadership is an art form. But when you step into it, oh my gosh, it can change the trajectory of the relationship forever.
Now, most of the women, most of the people who listen to my podcast are women, but I think it's important for you to define because I see a lot of that as well is this term divine masculine. What does that mean?
Divine masculine is male energy that is not, and you and I, Sandy, have divine masculine in us, or we might have wounded masculine. So it's like wounded and toxic, or it's beautiful and divine. So here would be an example. My husband is a very powerful man in the world. But he does not use his power over other people. That's toxic masculine. That's wounded masculine. Divine masculine inspires with his power. He takes it and he opens the cloak and shares. He inspires energetically. He inspires financially. He is a generator of ideas for more people. So he's not a hoarder coming from this place of myself, myself, myself. Also, in our home, as far as it relates to decisions that we make, there is not this idea of if he is going to bring all decisions and that is the final answer. He is able, because he's so deeply rooted in himself, divine masculine are so deeply rooted in themselves. They don't have this ego. They don't have to prove or push or talk over or louder or condescend or make fun of or belittle they are so deeply rooted in who they are that they can hold space for other people's ideas, beliefs, conversation. So my husband is a very curious person who is very curious about my experience in this lifetime as a woman, what I feel we need to do as it relates to raising the children, where we need to make our next decisions financially, where we need to move. We bring all of our ideas together and we collaborate on everything together because he has so much honor and respect for my leadership as a woman and my experience in this world. So the divine masculine holds that beautiful space for the woman in his life, the children in his life, the people who work for him to come in with their ideas as well and look at the collaboration and effect of what is possible.
Mm, that's a great way to describe it. I would love to go back to the whole, I know that that's a very big piece, but it's still a part of this whole patriarchy of women competing with women because we see a lot of that where women will almost feel threatened if another woman maybe is doing something really cool that is something she's created on her own, or they will be not supportive. Like you see so many different ways. Like, so for myself, I've always been like, I've been in the podcasting world for over 5 years. And it's like, I know other podcasters, I'll be like, oh my gosh, she's amazing. Let me introduce you to her. You'll have to interview her. But it hasn't been reciprocated in certain occasions. And I can feel that energy. I can feel it, Amanda. And I'm like, okay, well, I can't keep giving
Mm.
in that situation, but I would love for you to just kind of like, where did this come from? Because I personally, the only time the little hairs on the back of my neck stand up is when I feel that competitive energy. I'm like, I don't even understand why it's coming to me.
Mhm, mhm. Yes, well, I think just like the patriarchal structure 5,000 years ago, there were limited resources, right? And women were being auctioned off and bid on to become wives. So there was literal competition between women, right? It was like, I want to get picked. I want to be the wife. I want to be the one with the roof over my head. So there is an element of survival that is underneath it. And as we've evolved, we haven't necessarily done the work to have that part catch up. And so but here's the truth. I mean, my gosh, even if we look at, big corporations, there are still very few seats at the table of big corporations for women, right? So there's still this sense of I have to be the best. I have to step on you so I can get higher, so I get noticed, I get the promotion, I eventually get that board seat. So there is an element of that still playing out. But I think that there is this belief that there's not enough resources to go around. I really think that's what's at the root of it. It's like, can I be the prettiest? Can I be the youngest? Can I be the thinnest? Can I be the smartest? Can I have the most followers? Can I have the biggest bank account? Can I have the most successful husband? Can I have the children who go to Ivy League school? Whatever it is. Every woman's got a different flavor of her style of competition that is helping her feel more worthy or more secure or more safe, if you will, unconsciously. I don't think this is an active conscious process that's going on. So what I love to say with women is and myself is when we notice the feelings of jealousy coming up, because it is human. Jealousy is part of being human. If you notice the feelings of jealousy coming up, what I love to have women do is pay attention to what does she have that makes you feel jealous? Because more often than not, what she has is what you desire to have, but you don't feel brave enough to claim it, or you're not sure how to do it. So, women's, for a long time, I remember being places as a very young girl and into young adulthood. And just recently, I would say in the last 5 years, as my relationship with my mother has changed, I've been able to ask her to really look at this. So she doesn't even do it anymore. But we'd be out in the world, and my mom would make a comment about the way a woman was dressed or if it was fairly tight or revealing. And I finally had this conversation with her about like, Mom, why does that activate you so much? Why do you feel so triggered by that? So what? That's her body. That's how she wants to express. Like, go on with your day. what we ended up coming to was my mom has spent, she's 76 now. My mom has spent her life feeling imprisoned by her body and not free in her body and wearing clothes to almost not show certain things, right? So to see that really activates, like, how dare she be that free? I would never. And this isn't even that conscious, right? It's not until we really go in there and we start tilling the soil do we understand what lives underneath it. It's like, how dare she be that free in her body? I am suffering. I am in misery. I hate my body. How dare she walk in the world like that? Cover that up. Doesn't she know? Didn't she get the memo that she's not allowed to love herself that much? Whatever it is, right? And so my mom has stopped making those comments because she realizes that that trigger is an activation and there's a portal deeper into herself if she's willing to sit with it. There's work there that needs to be tended to. And it is just incredible because then it's like, oh, okay, bring on the activations, bring on the triggers, bring on the jealousy, because every time, if you allow it, you can learn something beautiful about yourself, of what really was living underneath that trigger or that jealousy.
Mm,
And I'm
yeah.
always in favor of, like, let other women's freedoms, let other women's expressions be permission that it gets to exist. I know there occasionally, and this is so occasionally, but every once in a while, my team will tell me that there's a woman who's come onto my social media and she's like, you're so full of yourself. Stop posting pictures of yourself. Nobody wants to see it. We just delete and block those women because that energy is just not welcome on my page, because I'm trying to set a new narrative. Women have been erased for so long. If we don't actually see a woman over 50 loving her non-injected, non-Botoxed, non-colored, non-filtered self, we don't actually even have evidence that it exists. So I'm showing up forevermore to showcase that there is a different way. But if we don't ever allow women to take up space and claim their own voice and their own power and their own bank accounts and their love for their bodies, we don't believe it exists. We believe that it's all suffering and all misery. So we also have to learn to become comfortable with women who take up a lot of space and who really love themselves. Learning to become comfortable, because that's evidence that we get to do that. It's an example. We have a lot of examples of women who hate their bodies, who are suffering, who are miserable, who are hiding. And I just want to serve as a different kind of example. And occasionally that means it's going to rub some women the wrong way because they haven't done their own work around visibility.
That's so true. Oh my God. I was slammed so badly on TikTok for a while there. And and so what I did, and I mean, like, like really mean comments. And I'm like, I'm just trying to help people. I'm not trying to hurt anybody. I'm actually trying to improve things in your life. But, then, you'll take my appearance and you'll start calling me things. And so what I've started doing, honestly, is I can't, I don't argue. I
Yeah.
don't try and change someone's mind. But one thing that's become very important to me, I'm 55 years old. I've had a lot of life. And oh my God, why am I so emotional? But I want to protect my peace.
Yes. Yes. And that's why I don't even read comments, right? Because I'm creating this body of work. My only job is to put my work in the world.
Yeah,
How the world engages and interacts with my work is none of my business.
right.
None. I create the piece, I put it out, I walk away from it. That's what we do with art.
Yeah.
We don't stand there in the museum around the corner wondering how many people like it, if they're what they're thinking about it. Everyone's always going to have an opinion, and it's not my job to police anybody, and I'm not interested. I know and trust with all of my heart and soul so profoundly that the right women always find my work. I don't have to convince anybody of anything, right? I had a live event last November that within 20 minutes, I sold $500,000 from the stage. And I didn't even sell. I basically was like, women were like, what's next? This 2-day experience is coming to an end. How can we work with you? And I said, well, this is my next offering. It starts in a couple of weeks. And within moments, the spaces were gone. And so we opened up one more cohort, and within moments, the spaces were gone, because I'm not in a place of trying to convince anybody of why this work works. I'm here to share the offering, and I always know and believe that the right women step in. So I think there's something really freeing and beautiful about seeing your work as an artist and a conduit. Like this is a divine appointment that I have answered. The divine has put this message and this passion bigger than I can even explain inside of me. And I have a really big responsibility with that work. I can't be down in the weeds being worried about who said something about the way I look, or what they wish would happen to me. Like, I just can't. This message is too sacred and too big for me to pay attention to that.
I couldn't agree with you more. Um, and you're probably going to have something very wise to say about this whole need or desire or want to be liked.
Mhm. And as long as we stay imprisoned, I think that's also that patriarchal, like, pick me, choose me. Because what we've learned, Sandy, is think about even all of the Disney style movies, anything where there's the princess, right? The princess is stuck in the castle, or she's in the glass coffin, or she's stuck in the tower, wherever she is, and she's waiting. We are bred on storylines to be saved, just to be so lucky if somebody chooses you. We never learn to save ourselves. We never learn to be the ones that are worth getting up and doing the thing for. It's only dependent on who's standing next to us. This is why women take abuse and stay in horrifying places and relationships and places of low pay and allow their children to speak to them like animals because they don't believe that they are actually worthy of anything more. So we choke these dried breadcrumbs down women's throats and try to tell them it's a feast. We never teach women how to source from within and how to build that banquet. We never teach women the love and approval of strangers on the internet. There might be nothing cheaper in the world.
Mm.
I've got a handful of people. I've got one best girlfriend. I've got my partner. I've got my children, a couple of close family members. I've got about 10 people who really know me and love me. And I am so satiated. Those are the only ones that I care about in that way, in that level, right? I don't care about the people who are sitting in the basements of their mother's homes with no profile picture and what their thoughts are about me. I also don't care what I feel so sad for young women if they want to come on and make comments about older women doing this work online. Because they too are so patriarchalized that the only thing that they think that they could shred somebody with is an attack on their appearance. And I am so, my appearance is like the least important, least interesting thing about me. So it's neither here nor there, right? And so I love this quote by Georgia O'Keeffe, and I use it in my book in the opening of one of the chapters, where she says something to the effect of, I've decided it for myself that both criticism and flattery go down the same drain, and therefore I am fully free. Because I don't rely on validation, exterior validation, and I don't rely on criticisms to change my power. Other people's opinions of me have never been any of my business, right? My business is my very close, intimate circle and this work that I'm doing in the world. And so I also don't pay attention to likes on Instagram or how many people forwarded something. It's like, great, you felt inspired. You want to share it? Fantastic. You don't, no problem. So I don't tie my worth to any of that. And I think that when we are sourcing from within, I am connected, like I said, to such profound work and love for humanity that I only have so much energy to expend in a day. And it sure as hell is not going to be paying attention to that.
Yes. Well, that's wise. I mean, maybe someday I'll get there. I don't feel I'm not there yet. Not that I place my worthiness on likes, but I do look and I do feel hurt when, others will say comments because and maybe that's another piece of this is that whole martyr side of it where I'm like, but I'm just trying to do good out there. Why are like and and so there's definitely parts I often wonder because I do so much work, Amanda, like I do a lot of inner work, a lot of grounding, I am in nature every single day with my dog. I am fully entrenched in my family. I have a very small circle like you. I think I have, three best friends, like since childhood. That those are the only people I trust. But I'm like, how do I stop the rumination? I think I'm like,
Pleasure. Get out of your head, get into your body. When you're here, that's that princess energy, right? This is the princess running the story. You want the queen to lead the story. You want that queen that is ancient and grounded in her knowing and her mission. You want her to be the one who leads you. So, and pleasure, pleasure, pleasure around every corner. How can you infuse your day, whether it's making your morning a beverage, to sitting down at your desk to work? How do you infuse your surroundings, your bed, your bathroom, your conversations? How do you just infuse it where it's like honey dripped pleasure everywhere? Be so busy being in pleasure in your life that that is just inconsequential.
I love that. I actually saw I think it was yesterday, I just saw a post about that, about just taking so much pleasure in loving that cup of coffee that you made, or going for, and I do. But, I honestly, I feel like the more that I fill space, that really kind of lights me up, it dims the other stuff more. So, does that make sense to you?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. So it's sourcing from within and filling. You don't need exterior validation or external validation when you are self-validating. You don't need to feel worthy from someone else when you know you are born inherently worthy. So I don't need from the outside because I fill up from the inside. I think when we live a life dependent on other people's opinions, we really will miss the magic of the work we're doing. And I think you'd be also very pleasantly surprised. I watch women's businesses literally explode when we start working together because they are now in such an embodied place in their work that and so much filled with so much pleasure in doing so. And that effervescence is why people sign up. People don't, yes, my work is phenomenal. But the truth is, Sandy, people sign up because they want to be next to me. And I don't mean that there's no ego. This is about proximity. They want proximity to this kind of energy. They want proximity to this kind of self-love. They want proximity to this kind of wisdom. It's my energy that people say yes to. Most people who sign up for very, very expensive immersions with me, they're like, I don't even know exactly what we're going to do, and I don't even care. I just know that your vibe is what I want to be near because I've had experience in the world of working with other women or being around family members who it's very different energetically. And here I see something different or feel something different. So people more often than not don't buy the solution as much as they buy the person, the face, the energy.
Oh, I agree with that. I actually have been doing a lot of work on frequencies and healing and vibration. And even now, like I'm wearing a frequency device that just helps me just to focus. There's like, I don't know if you've ever heard of, it's called Love Tuner, and it's the frequency of 528, which is the frequency of love. And it incorporates breath work. So I am so all in on what is this? It's not your appearance. It's not what I'm wearing. It's not, that I am really whatever fancy looking or anything like that. It's what am I giving off that you can't touch it, right?
Yes, absolutely. So beautiful.
Yeah, but that's I think what drew me to you in the first place, because I was drawn to your energy, and then when you speak, everything really resonates with me, and that I believe actually is something important about health overall. We hear a lot of these very big names in health and wellness, and they deem them experts, which is something I'm really moving away from because nobody's an expert about you. It comes from inside, right?
Yes. Oh, I could not agree more. Absolutely.
So this whole persona of this person's an expert in longevity and this person's an expert in hormones and you got to dig in on what you're the only expert. I don't know if you've ever seen that movie. It's called Inner Worlds Outer Worlds, I think it is. But it really talks about the ancient wisdom of how we've gone away from that power that we have within us and that knowingness to giving it all away to other people.
Absolutely. Women are notorious for that.
Yeah. And what you're doing is you're teaching to tap into what's inside of you.
Yes, absolutely. And to learn to expand your capacity to trust yourself, right? Because when you are immersed in a world that gaslights women at large and tells rape victims that was not your experience, prove it, or is constantly having women prove that they're actually really in pain or that they're really feeling that symptom. When we've been gaslit for so long, we end up not even believing ourselves. So teaching a woman how to trust her intuition and her knowing, she's like, what are you talking about? Where's that? How will I know? Because she's not been taught or raised in a world where her inner knowing was ever celebrated or something that was seen as a good thing. It's like, you don't know what you're talking about. Sit down. That's stupid. I was raised on a belief that I was stupid and I was too emotional and I made everything a bigger deal than it was. And then only later in life did I come to understand, like, wow, I didn't make everything a bigger deal than it was. You all minimized the big deal that it was. You all played down like this life and this how miraculous this is that we're even here having this conversation right now. And I'm not going to let someone steal my magical way of experiencing the world because it's too uncomfortable for you.
Mhm.
But I was gaslit for a very long time, even into young adulthood, thinking I was too much and that the way I thought and the way I felt was too intense. And so I just tried to make it palatable for the world, all the while completely betraying myself and ended up getting an thyroid disease, the Hashimoto's, because I was not using my voice. I was not being true to who I was in the world. I was swallowing my truth because I thought people wouldn't be able to handle it.
I had thyroid cancer at 41. I don't know if you know that. And I had a total thyroidectomy. And now I'm a 55-year-old woman going through menopause without the thyroid gland. So there's different challenges there hormonally. But it's interesting that you say that because, listen, I love my parents. My parents are very old school Croatian farmers. Okay. I come with a lot of baggage to my world, a lot of, generational trauma, a lot of that. And I remember as a child not being allowed to say no to my parents, right? And it wasn't like, they were abusive or they knew, like I certainly don't fault them. I have an amazing relationship. That's how they grew up, right?
Yes.
And
Yes.
so I had to change that story. And this is why, like, not speaking my truth, exactly what you're saying. And so I'm like, I was always like that little black sheep in the family, the little bit of a troublemaker, a little bit of a big mouth, a little bit of a, right?
Yes. And those big mouths, those ones who always had the opinion or the final word, more often than not, those are the leaders. Like we're looking around thinking, I think there might be a better way to do this. What if we consider this? But yeah, and also as it comes to parents, it's never, ever, ever, in my opinion, about blaming. Of course, occasionally, let me back that up. It's still not about blaming, but I have worked with some women with some profound, profound childhood sexual trauma. And you better believe we're placing some blame on the people who did the things they did to these women. But in general speaking, I am not in favor of placing blame on parents, my parents, any of that. I am in favor of understanding what happened so that we can change the narrative. Like we have to understand what happened and in our own minds, imagine if we could have taken the brush and just brushed on the canvas a completely different way of being experienced as children, what would that have looked like? What would that have sounded like? And then when you have the template for that, I teach women how to divine mother themselves. So to take the energy of our own internal divine mother and mother the parts of ourselves that never actually got to have that experience, not from a place of our parents were wrong or bad, as much as it is they were often doing the very best they could with what they knew, but it doesn't mean that has to be the story we walk out, and certainly not if we are parents. And I'm sure I always think my children will go on to do better than I have done to them. And that is the hope and the plan, that every generation goes on to do a little bit more and a little bit better.
I think that's very profound when you go back and you see all of that and you don't lay blame. You, okay, it's like you said, there's obviously extreme situations that you have worked with women with a lot of trauma. But even for myself, I've actually gone back. So I have my kids are adults. I've gone back to my son because there were times where I was unwell. Um, I was not well physically and mentally, because if you know about thyroid, you know how that can affect your mental health. And I've gone back to my son and I've said to him, listen, like, and it was very healing for me. Do you remember when I would get so angry? And I've had these talks with him. And he's like, Mom, I don't remember that. I said, well, if that ever comes up, just know that I love you and I'm sorry. And I did the best I could. And,
Mhm.
it was very healing for me too, because I'm like, I had to heal that part of myself. And then I had to heal myself physically because I was gaslit. I was told, you just need to take this one pill and you're going to be fine. And I'm like, but I wasn't fine. So that's when I started researching. I went back to college at 46 because I'm like, I needed to understand this. And it was like, I always call it breadcrumbs, right? Like I was following the breadcrumbs and I'm like, wait a minute, you need to give me T3, which is the active thyroid hormone. I'm too much of a stressed out mess to be able to convert this synthroid T4 to T3. And he looked at me like I had, 10 eyes, but then he's like, okay, I'll do that for you. So
Mhm.
it was like going to him to advocate for myself was like the first step to healing the physical self.
Yes. So well bragged. So beautiful.
So, yeah, I mean, I could talk to you forever. I think that there's so much healing that all women, if
Mhm.
they tap into it, because, I know I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for the work that I did, but I also feel like it doesn't stop, right? Like we don't hit the summit and then go, okay, I'm all good and perfect now.
No, and I think it's so beautiful. I think I am just dancing through this whole experience. And for me, I have this image, it's one big playground. I'm just an adult form and body now with more wisdom, but I'm still in this beautiful playground of what do I want to create next? Who do I want to become? What are my next moves, whether it's in business, in love, and um, friendships, travels, all of it. It's just, and there is no arrival. I have no concept or vision that I'm going to get to this place and arrive. It to me, it would be like asking a tree to stop growing, right? I'm going to continually grow and evolve, I hope, until the very final breath that I take, because I'm a very curious person. And I think this world and humans are just phenomenal. And I can't get enough of it.
So what is you often hear a lot of times people are like, "Oh God, I can't wait to stop working. I want to retire." I personally I feel like I'm just getting going. Like I'm 55 now and I'm like I'm still going and I'm building more and now my husband and I are working together and I'm like for the first time in 25 years of marriage, I feel like we're really really partnering together instead of him working on his thing over here and me working on mine. And I'm like, this is really like, it's like the fire in my belly is just getting bigger and I love it. And then I hear of other people saying, oh, I can't wait to stop working. I want to stop retiring. So I'm going to ask you, what are your next moves? I know that you're traveling and speaking, and you've got a book that's just about to release, or it has just released.
It has released. It came out in April. Was it April now or May? Oh my gosh. It came out in March. Yes, it is available. It's called Muse, The Magnetism of Women Who Stop Abandoning Themselves.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much. I mean, the biggest thing I would say is I leave for Barcelona next Tuesday. My next live event, my first big live event for hundreds of women was in Phoenix, Arizona last November. I'm going to be in Barcelona, Spain, May 2nd and 3rd, where I'm hosting Magnetic again. And then I'm going to be back on the stage in December, the first weekend of December, back in Phoenix with Magnetic again, because of course, I've got all of my mastermind clients, I've got all of that work that I'm doing. But for me, it really is the biggest piece is about building the matriarchal stage.
Yes. And you're doing an incredible job at that because you are inspiring so many women. I will say I'm going to keep sharing everything. I'm going to keep following. Maybe I'll see you in Arizona. I love Arizona. I've been to Sedona a couple of times. So, it's a
Last
very,
year, a lot of women left when the 2-day event, experiential event was over. A lot of them rented cars and drove to Sedona, either in small groups or individually, to really go and place the intentions for the next year of their life after having been in this profound container for 2 days with women from around the world.
that's amazing. And you know what? Both times that I've been to Sedona, I came back with some major change happening. I really believe, I believe in what you're saying. So you have the tools and then you go and ground yourself in those tools and really come and transform afterwards. I love that. Where can we find you, Dr. Amanda? Best place.
Yes, it would be on Instagram is probably the place where I am the most active. I know that I have a presence that my team manages over on LinkedIn, on TikTok, and of course, I have my YouTube channel, but it would be Midlife Muse is my handle on Instagram. And my website is amandahanson.com. So that's where all of the programs and the ways to work with me are available there.
That is perfect. Thank you so much. This has been such a really deep emotional conversation. I really appreciate you so much.
You're so very welcome. Thank you for having me.
Okay, I'm going to hit stop.